Thanks, Tank.
Well done.
Thank you. I want you to give me a fresh beer.
You serious?
Now! Now! Holy third, you son of a bitch!
Welcome in to the Beer 30 Dynasty Football Podcast, where we drink and we know Dynasty. I'm your host, Colton. We got Wade with us again today.
What's going on, everybody?
No Grant Larson today. He's off apparently just doing more important things. But we do have a very special guest with us today, and that is Mitchell, the champ, Rupert.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thanks for having me today.
How's it going, Mitch? You're the reigning champ of our Superflex startup from last year. How's it feel? I see you're wearing your Tyreek jersey that you got from it last year.
I am. Yeah, it feels good. Still no quarterback, but we're working on it.
I still don't know how you won a Superflex championship with was it Easton Stick? Was your quarterback?
Yeah, and Stidham. Yeah.
Just absolutely insane. Stacked at the wide receivers, so I mean that'll help you out every time. But I was just baffled on how you won that stupid thing, man.
Wasn't a good strategy, for sure.
I did my old classic rebuild right away in that league, so that's
Isn't that every league?
I like the rebuild, Wade. I like it.
I'm aware.
Hey, I've come back in this league. I had a lot of picks. It was a good draft for me, but we got a lot of news to get into since we missed last week. I came down with pneumonia, and Wade and Grant were also busy, so we missed last week. So we're back, and we're gonna be breaking down the East now, and got 2 divisions left after that. But let's get into the news, boys.
Look, I report the news. That's what I do.
All right, first up, and this is a little bit old now because he is actually practicing, but Marshawn Lloyd was not practicing due to a hip injury. He's back at practice. Seems like he's doing just fine, so nothing super concerning there, but we'll just keep an eye on it, see if that hip continues to bother him through training camp. Next up, Joe Mixon was also not practicing, but the head coach, D'Amico Ryans, says, and I quote, "He will be fine." Any concerns with Joe Mixon there from either one of you, with him already being hurt in training camp and being an older back?
Not for me particularly. I mean, if it's something that, ends up making him miss significant time, obviously there's going to be concern there, but I just think he's going to be the guy regardless if he misses a week or two. It's not going to be that big a deal.
I was going to say, all offseason people have just been banging the drum for Joe Mixon, so to see him injured right out the bat for training camp makes me, I mean, not nervous, but more hesitant is what I would say, to, just to keep it on the radar and keep an eye on what's going on with him. Next up, just a couple of extensions here. Rashid Shaheed gets a 1-year extension. Tua with the big money, 4-year, $212 million. And then Jordan Love with the 4-year, $220 million extension. The highest paid quarterback in the NFL. What is going on?
You either pay him or you don't have him. That's what's going on.
Yeah, the market's going crazy right now. It just keeps going up and up. That's what's going on, in my opinion. But...
I mean, just Jordan Love. I feel bad for just poor Tua. They came out the same draft class. Tua's been doing it for years now, and Jordan Love only has 1 season, and they're just like, nah, he's worth more than everyone. So I think
happens when you wait to get paid after.
Yeah, I was just shocked that he was worth the highest paid. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Jordan Love is an excellent quarterback, but I was just surprised that he got the highest paid one. I was really expecting it to be Tua, but hey, I don't own a football team, so I don't know how the money works.
Love, in my opinion, just had all the ammunition there to get the deal done. Like, the Packers were pretty much like, well, we have to pay him, and that was the benefit of him betting on himself, signing that 1-year extension, whatever year ago it was now, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the market these days with the quarterbacks. You either pay them or you lose them. So,
yep.
Rookie Roman Wilson was carted off the practice field. We did get some information out. He's expected to be back by week 1. He avoided major injuries. Sounds like it's just an ankle sprain, but I really like Roman Wilson as the prospect. It just sucks that this is, it's his rookie year going into training camp. He's going to miss some time. So I have a feeling this year it's going to kind of be if he does break out, it'll be very late in the season just from missing all this time early on.
Yeah, I'm agree with you there.
All right. And then Justin Herbert's dealing with plantar fasciitis. He is in a boot for at least 2 weeks, expected to return by the beginning of the season. Any concerns with Justin Herbert here, Roop? I mean, it seems like he's been injured year in and year out here and just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he has been injured a lot. It is concerning too with a lot of new offensive weapons. I mean, to get that jiving takes time. And the fact that he's out already is concerning. Got a new coach, new weapons. I mean, yeah, I'm concerned about it, but when he is in, he's incredible.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons, it seems like he's just been dealing with, minor stuff back in 2022. He still played through them, but he was still not playing up to, his best level. And then last year, obviously, he got injured and missed 4 games. So just something to keep an eye on. He's not a rushing quarterback, so it's not as a major concern, but I mean, it's still, concern enough. And like you said, yeah, that new offense, a lot of new weapons, it takes a minute to get connected with them, and missing that time it might hurt him early on in the season.
I think my biggest concern there is the type of injury that is. That plantar fasciitis stuff can linger. And if he doesn't get it, healed up, it doesn't take much for it to flare back up. And then, he's limping around in the pocket, can't move or what have you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of this offseason has been, Greg Roman and Harbaugh. I'm just going to go with Harbaugh.
Yeah, I don't know why you do that to yourself every time.
every time, man. Harbaugh, they want to run it, and there's lots of talks that Herbert could be, more mobile this year, and they could plan some rushes for him. And maybe with this plantar fasciitis coming into play, maybe we don't see that rushing upside from him. But just something to keep an eye on again. Dude, training camp sucks. There's just so many injuries coming out of it. I hate it and love it all at the same time. Jonathan Brooks, rookie out of Carolina, likely out until weeks 3 to 4. So this is finally some information about when they think he was going to return. So I think it's just good not to rush him back. He tore his ACL, I think it was November last year in Texas. He's an awesome prospect. He looks great. I like that it won't be till week 3 or 4 as an actual Jonathan Brooks owner, because I don't want him to rush him back and he looks terrible or does something to re-injure. So just getting some news about when he'll be back, and also just some news that they're going to hang on to him for a little bit. And then last little bit here, I saw this last night. DeAndre Hopkins out for multiple weeks. Any concerns with DeAndre Hopkins, or were we not concerned because he's already old?
I mean, yes and yes. I mean, you're concerned because, the age, the situation he's in, and everything all together. But I think if you're banking on Hopkins putting up like a top 10 season for your team, you're already in trouble anyway. So,
are you saying that I shouldn't be relying on Hopkins to be my wide receiver 1?
That is exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Oh, boy.
But, if you're somebody still holding on to dear life for Treylon Burks stonks, maybe this is the little lighter you need there.
If you still have Treylon Burks on your roster, you're just a dirty bird.
Hey, I got him on 2 of my rosters because I got him for free.
Wait, you dirty bird.
I didn't take him at like a 103, so I'm going to hold on until there's literally no hope left.
Living the nastiest of lifestyles over there, Treylon Burks. Oh, man.
I have him too. I can't seem to get rid of him.
Guys, stop. Oh, my God. I had 1 share of him, and I think I dropped him last year after it was just determined that he is never going to do anything.
Hey, man, you just got to go back to that one game he scored that touchdown and got concussed, and that was like the best game ever. You just got to hope that he can, save that.
Dude, that's like holding out, hoping like Sammy Watkins is still going to work out. Just hanging on for dear life.
You're not wrong, but if you got the roster spot, I don't see it hurting at this point.
Take a shot on like a rookie running back or something, man. Get rid of him. All right, let's get into this divisional breakdown. We're going to do AFC East, taking it to the East. We're going to start out with the New England Patriots. Oh man, this is going to be a fun one. So at quarterback, we got Drake May, Jacoby Brissett, Joe Milton, Bailey Zappi. Running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, and then a whole bunch of just other names. is really all that's there. Wide receiver is where it gets wild with the Patriots. They have so many names on this list, and I have no idea who's going to make this final roster. I just know it won't be Juju Smith-Schuster. I just know that.
Ouch.
But we got on the list Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, KJ Osborne, Kayshon Boutte. There's more names if you want me to read them, but I think we're good there. Jalen Rieger.
I
Rieger's on
kind
the
of
list.
forgot he's still there.
Yeah.
Or is there now, however that works.
Kawan Baker. It's just insane. And then at tight end, we have Hunter Henry and Jaheim Bell. So lots of names on this list. We'll start off at the quarterback position. Obviously, the big name there is Drake May, rookie coming out of North Carolina. The words out of camp so far is that he's kind of just been everybody's been just absolutely hyping Joe Milton, which is why I even put him on this list. I think he was a late round selection, 5th round maybe, for the Patriots. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett returning to his home where he learned underneath Tom Brady. And, I think there's a true possibility for this team that Jacoby Brissett is the starter for the first half of the season.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at that at all. That's where I was going to go with you there. I guess at this point I'm kind of expecting him to start and May to sit a couple games at least. Now, obviously, if they start to struggle, everybody's going to be calling for the rookie. That's how it always goes. But if he continues to struggle, maybe the coach, comes in and is like, hey, we're sitting you, regardless of what's going on. I doubt it because that's never how it goes. But.
Rupert, what do you know about rookies? What do you think of Drake May?
I do think he was overhyped coming in the draft, just based off of his competition in school. But I agree with you guys. Jacoby could start the first 2-3 seasons, let Drake, find pace with the NFL and see how he does. I mean, the Patriots are not shy to switch quarterbacks up left and right. So,
yeah, there was a lot of analysts that said that Drake May could easily benefit from just sitting for a season or two behind a quarterback. And there was I don't know if you guys follow Kurt Benkert. He was a old Packers quarterback. He was kind of a backup, but he's kind of got some interesting insights, and he was just breaks down their plays.
He is an interesting fellow who I do not care for.
He's an interesting fellow for sure. But, I mean, he brings up a lot of good points, and he kind of knows how these quarterbacks are trained and coached up, and he's been right about a lot of things. And he said that having Drake May sit a year wouldn't be too bad of an idea. And I completely agree, especially with his play style. He is a true pocket passer. He's not like a mobile quarterback here. He is of the younger prospects. So just getting a year under his belt in the NFL, I think could be beneficial for him.
And I don't disagree with that take, but I'm not going to, take my takes from a guy who claims that the only reason he didn't make the roster is because he was too much of an alpha dog for the coaches in Green Bay. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, maybe his insights on himself aren't great, but I do kind of like his breakdowns of the quarterback.
He was just too good. That's why he didn't make any roster ever.
Hey, if you're just that good, man, you'll never play in the NFL.
Clown.
That's why I didn't make the NFL. It's because I'm just too good.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting here talking about the NFL at home instead.
The back in my day type of guy.
Back in my day, I was a great running back, but I was just too good for the NFL. They couldn't handle it. How do you guys feel about this Joe Milton buzz just building up? Is it just training camp hype, or do you actually like Joe Milton at all?
He's got a cannon. I can say that. He has a cannon.
He does, in fact, have a cannon.
He can just launch.
Unfortunately, there's a lot more intangibles you have to be a successful quarterback, but he does have an arm.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's just like, why are people – because like on Sleeper, if you go and look at the trending up, Joe Milton's like number 5. People are just eating up any amount of training camp hype.
Oh, yeah, it's a training camp hype. That's all it is. I mean –
and it's just Joe Milton. Like, I watched the videos of it. I'm like, what's the hype going on? And it's him just chucking the thing down the field. But, all right, we'll get moving on to the running backs. Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson. I was super hyped for Antonio Gibson to come here to New England. I have never been a Ramondre Stevenson believer. until he just got paid this offseason. So now I am not as hyped for Antonio Gibson. It is clearly going to be Ramondre's show, and I think Antonio Gibson's kind of going to be that change of pace back, and also just when he needs a break, Ramondre needs a break. So how do you guys feel about Ramondre? Because I feel like you guys should talk about him, because I am obviously not the believer of him.
I've slept on him in the past. A little too much, I think. He's not flashy. He's not a flashy type of guy, but he can chunk out 3 or 4 yards. I don't know. What do you think, Wade?
I've always been a fan of his, and I think, I was a little surprised they're actually paying him, because I wasn't sure what the game plan was going to be there in the backfield with the new coaching staff coming in. But I think finally, if he's really able to just be the guy. I mean, you saw he was able to do it in 2022. He finished for PPR running back 7. So I mean, if he can get back to that, stay healthy. That was the only season he's played all 17 games. But if he can get back to that and they feed him the ball, he can catch. Like, he can pretty much do it all. I think he could definitely, bring great value for, especially for somebody who's a no RB drafter. I think you can get him later on in the draft, and he'll be worth just as much as the guys you're taking in the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, his 2022 season, you guys knock on me for my Najee love, and that's because of all the targets he got and just was fed him. Well, in his 2022 season for Ramondre, he was targeted 88 times, 69 receptions. I mean, he only rushed for 1,040 yards. I mean, he was very, very productive with his carries. He was 4.95 yards per carry, which is awesome to see. But, I mean, only finishing with 1,000 yards, had all of those targeting. Is it possible we see, just because he was so good, because he was targeted so much?
I mean, it's definitely something you don't want to bank on in those targets, but he only had 5 touchdowns that year. So maybe you get some more red zone usage, and then maybe not as many catches, but maybe those, if you get a couple more touchdowns, it kind of boosts that up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying you should bank on the Patriots offense when we have no idea what it's going to look like, but if there's somebody that I'm going to, pin my head to, it's going to be him in that offense.
No doubt he's going to be the main RB there. It's just, man, that's just my argument for Ramondre. That's why it scares me. And the same reasons I love Najee, though. So I don't know if this is just that situation going on between there. But any interest in Antonio Gibson here in this offense, Roop?
Yeah, you got to get him late, though.
Oh, he's going
yeah,
way
you're
away.
not going to spend anything early on him. It all depends on Ramondre Stevenson's season, really. That's where I see it.
I like Antonio Gibson because, yes, you can get him cheap, and we saw Ramondre get injured last year. He's a nice little handcuff to hang on to, because I think he does the same stuff as Ramondre, and I think that's why he was brought in. He's very similar to Ramondre, a good receiving back that can also run between the tackles if need be. It's just a nice little handcuff to have, and I think it's someone that they brought in just to say, hey, in case Ramondre gets injured, we got this next guy that can do essentially the same thing. So just a nice little handcuff to hang on to there. Let's get into this dirty receiving core, because, man,
Ugh.
it is – I don't know what to do, man. I have no idea. But I've been buying into it. I've been buying into this receiving core because someone has to be the one, right?
You're a braver man than I.
I mean, they have a list of right now currently a whole bunch of wide receiver 2s and 3s in my eyes, but it's just I want a piece of the offense because I think eventually this offense is going to be good. In rebuilding, they're cheap. You can get them real cheap. So I've been buying up. My main 2 targets have been Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, obviously. Those are the 2 rookies they brought in. Polk was drafted in the 2nd round, or high 2nd round. Javon Baker went later. I want to say he was a 4th round, but as of right now, the words coming out of training camp has been that Javon Baker looks good. Out of this receiving core, Wade, what are you feeling like? Who would be the wide receiver 1 and who would be a target that you'd be going for?
Oh, God, the wide receiver 1's like 60 coin flips, man. But I think if I had to pick, 2, I'd go after either Polk or Demario Douglas, just off what he was able to do. And I have said it before that I'm not big, on receivers who are small. And he's only, 5'8", 192. So he's got a little bit of weight to him, but only 5'8", not great size there. But I think he showed some explosiveness. So those would be my picks there. It's just very hard for me to to look at that roster and really want any of those guys or spend a high pick or what have you on them.
You know they call him Pop Douglas over there. He's Pop Douglas.
Oh, Pop. All right, sorry. I'll start referring to him as Pop Douglas.
Pop Douglas. I don't know how they get that, but it's Pop Douglas. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people liked him last year, and I mean, he finished the year with 49 receptions, 561 yards, no touchdowns. So I'm like, it makes me question, especially with the potential of a new rookie quarterback taking over at some point. Rookies don't typically deliver in wide receivers for fantasy wise. I mean, it may not be bad for NFL, but for fantasy wise, it's usually a little bit uglier. And so I am a little bit nervous. I like Javon Baker a lot because you can get him usually like either late third or fourth in a rookie draft. And so far, all the training camp buzz has been around him. I haven't seen much come out about Jalen Polk, which makes me nervous because I did take him. I only took him in one league just because I did get Drake May to have that nice little stack. But, just with the training camp buzz coming around between Polk and Baker, do you got any opinions on either one of those, Roop?
I like Polk a little bit better, but that's just because what he did his senior year. His senior year was kind of insane. He came off of an injury, and he had over 1,000 yards and 69 receptions. I think that's going to translate to the NFL. I don't know when. We'll see this offense. I think this offense is really going to struggle no matter what you do, but we'll see.
Don't tell me that, man. I'm buying pieces of it. Stop.
Well,
it's rebuilding though. If you're relying,
yeah.
if you're relying on the Patriots offense this year, if you're a contending team, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're winning a ship. I don't think it's happening if you're relying. But I think, give it a couple years. I like Gerard Mayo, the new head coach coming in. I think he'll kind of turn this team around here. And I think Drake May eventually will work out as a quarterback, but it might take some time. But yeah, I mean, Jalen Polk, like you said, he had a good last year. He was actually outproduced Roma Dunze. Both both Polk and Jalen McMillan, who we talked about with the Bucks, they both outproduced Roma Dunze at one point. So I think just any one of those Washington guys, the way they were able to produce at one point or not in their college career, it just kind of should translate to this NFL. And I do like Polk. I like Baker. It's just, man, I just don't know what to do with this receiving core and who's going to be the one. But is there anyone else we need to talk about in this receiving core? Anyone?
No.
Juju Smith-Schuster. The reports are that Juju is just struggling, man. Although KJ Osborne did get a little training camp buzz last night. They said he finished on a strong note. He had a big drop, and then he went 4 for 5 and had a touchdown. So
I think he's always been the guy who gets talked up in camp, and then the season comes around and it's just never there.
I think KJ Osborne is just forever a wide receiver 3. He's just never going to be a main option. He'll have a game or two where he gets 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown or two. So he'll have those games here and there, but it's just not someone that I can ever trust to say, yep, he's going to have a big game today. It's just one of those guys. So, all right, on to the tight ends. Hunter Henry and then the new rookie, Jaheim Bell. Any interest in the tight end room at all here? Hunter Henry had a lot of buzz last year. He had a couple games where he did blow up earlier in the season, and then it seemed like he just kind of vanished until the end. He had another couple games, but finished week 1 as the tight end 1, week 2, tight end 2, and then didn't do anything really until week 9 where he was the tight end 10, and then 14 and 15 he finished as tight end 4 both times. So seemed like he came on strong, and it looked like he was going to be an awesome tight end option to have on your side, and then just kind of vanished. Do you have any interest in Hunter Henry for, either non-tight end premium or tight end premium leagues?
I think he's somebody you want to keep an eye on for the waiver wire, or if you're doing a startup, just a late round dart throw if you're in need of a tight end. I could see him, if May does end up starting, tight ends are always rookie QB's, safety net. So I could see him having some good games. I just don't know if he's going to be that guy that, he's going to be 29 now. I think his best seasons are kind of behind him maybe. But he still might be a guy who you can plug and play and hope for, a boom week. But I don't think it's going to be somebody consistently you want to start.
Any interest from you in Hunter Henry, Roop?
No, I agree with Wade there. He was a really big boom or bust last year, and it showed that he had more bust. So, yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with you.
Yeah, it was hard to tell kind of when he was going to blow up for a game. I don't know much about the rookie Jaheim Bell. I don't know if you've watched anything or know much about him at all, either one of you. I really don't know. I think they took him way late in the draft.
Yeah, he went in the 7th.
That is what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
I don't
interest.
know him either.
No interest from me. He's not going to break out. It's Hunter Henry show there. So, all right. On to our next team. The good old Buffalo Billiams. I knew that would get a head shake out of you. Knew it. I love it. All right. At the quarterback position, we have first and foremost the best quarterback on the team, Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, good one.
Oh, okay. Josh Allen, Mitchell Trubisky backing him up. Running back, James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Frank Gore Jr., wide receiver, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the Super Bowl champ. And tight ends, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Oh, man. It's just, I hate seeing Marquez Valdez-Scantling on good teams, man. I just hate it. Starting off at the quarterback position, though, obviously it's Josh Allen. Do we need we say more? He's
No, it's Josh Allen.
quarterback one. Although I have been seeing a lot of articles coming out, and I think it's just clickbait. I mean, and just, people trying to get some buzz and like, oh, read this. Is Josh Allen as safe as we think? He's 28 years old. He lost a lot of his true wide receiver one, and then his wide receiver 2.5, I like to say, in Gabe Davis. Is there a slight concern that he could fall out of the top 3 this year?
I don't. I think his rushing is still just going to carry it. I don't know if he's going to fall to the top 3. I mean, is it impossible? No, absolutely not. I mean, injuries, whatever could happen, and I'm not going to say that not having the weapons that he had is not going to hurt him. But I think for fantasy purposes, the rushing upside he's going to have is just going to propel him up there.
I mean, he's had a great run the last 4 years. 1-1, 2-1 has been his finishes. And he did come out with an interview as well. He's talking about his rushing and how he said, he might have to pull it back a little bit. I just don't foresee it happening because Josh Allen has been one of those guys that's been he's been like the heat of the moment rusher. It's like, I think every year he's like, yeah, I should probably dial it back and not make those big hits. And then he keeps doing it every single year. I mean, he wants to win and he wants to make big plays. So I don't foresee him dialing it back at all.
No, I mean, his only season where he had under 100 rushing attempts was his rookie season. So do with that what you will.
Any concerns from you, Roop?
No, not really. He's a big dude too. So even when he does take off, it's not like it's a small quarterback like Jaden Daniels, that could get murdered out there. I mean,
6'5", 237. That's a big boy running at you.
Yeah. And maybe, he doesn't need to just dial back the running necessarily. I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but also maybe just dial back the trying to run over any safety that tries to tackle you and maybe slide a couple times. That might help.
yeah.
Maybe they can teach Anthony Richardson that too.
Yeah.
All right. Any interest in Trubisky as a handcuff there? No. Wow. God, both Bears fans absolutely just destroying.
I did not, waste a roster spot on that.
Okay, all right. On to the running backs here then, which I don't have question marks around the running back, but I know a lot of people do. So James Cooks, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Frank Gore Jr. I love James Cook, and I love especially what he did at the back half of the season last year. They swapped offensive coordinators. They went to Joe Brady, and it seemed like he wanted to absolutely run this offense through James Cook. Through the first half of the season, it was, he was doing good, but it wasn't anything crazy. Towards the back end, though, he was having, 17 attempts, 16 attempts, 10, 25, 20, 16. So, I mean, his rushing definitely went up, his attempts. And he looked more productive with it too. You know, he finished 5.8 yards per carry, 7.16 yards per carry in those later games. So I liked what he did towards the back half of the season, and I think they did too. There also came an interview came out, and they said essentially, you know, I'm paraphrasing here. They had taken for granted what he can do between the tackles. You know, a lot of the time he was seen as just a receiving back, and they're like, you know what, we didn't see what he could really do, and that they want to use him more between the tackles this year. Does that spark any of your interest, or are you guys kind of afraid of James Cook here?
I mean, I've never been a big James Cook guy. He's kind of in the same tier for me as Rachaad White down in Tampa, where he's kind of the guy right now. And he doesn't really have, in my opinion, anybody that's going to take it from him. So I think you're just going to ride the big wave with him, and he's going to continue to he probably get more targets this year with that receiving core being what it is. Maybe even more carries, but then, you know, you get down to the goal line, you still got Josh Allen going to take off and steal some touchdowns from you.
There's so many vacated targets in this offense, you know, with losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, so many vacated targets, and a lot of those vacated targets go to the running back position, and he is very good at receiving. I mean, last year you watch him have a couple of silly drops here and there, but I mean, other than that, he is very good at receiving. Does that spark your interest any more in him at all?
It does for me. He was 16th in target share last year. I think that's going to go up this year. We'll see. I don't think he's going to be a third down back. I think they're pushing that to Ray Davis, but I do think he's going to get more targets this year.
Yeah, I think we're going to see an uptick in his targets, an uptick in his usage. And I think people are sleeping on James Cook. I mean, he is going off the board typically around running back 12-ish, which is, I believe that's where he even finished last year. Yeah, exactly, RB12 in PPR. And so I think there's a lot of people that are kind of standoffish from James Cook just because he is a little bit smaller. He's 5'11", 190. We've seen some interesting usage out of him, but a lot of people are also big on, like Wade brought up, Ray Davis. You know, they're thinking that he could potentially take some work away from him, and I'm just not concerned about it. I think that James Cook's role is safe in what he's doing, and that, you know, Ray Davis is a bigger boy. He's 5'8", 220. So I think, you know, he maybe steals the goal line work from James Cook, but we saw that happen last year. They brought in old dudes to steal the goal line work from James Cook anyways. So the touchdown upside sure isn't there, but he's going to get more usage and still finish as the RB12. That's something I'm going to kind of take a shot on.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying by any means, like, you know, steer clear depending on, you know, what the price. Who's going around him? You said RB12.
Let me take a meander while you continue to talk. We'll look that up.
All right. But I mean, yeah, like you said, the receiving's probably going to go up because of the lack of weapons they've added there. And I think he's still going to, I mean, at worst, you're going to get a repeat, I would think, of RB12 again. And that's probably still worth what it's going to cost to get him. Now, if somebody's, you know, trying to trade him and they're asking the world for him, it's not somebody who I'm expecting, you know, in 3 years to still be doing this. But I could be proven wrong.
So he's actually coming off the board. RB14 is what I'm seeing here. And ahead of him is at 11, Josh Jacobs, Rachaad White at 12, Isaiah Pacheco 13. And right behind them goes Jonathan Brooks, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, that's about right. I'd be fine with taking him around those guys.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good of where he's at and where he's going. I just think he has a little bit higher of a ceiling than RB14 where he's at. So I think he's one of those guys that could outperform his ADP this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Any interest in Ray Davis?
Handcuff?
Yeah.
Handcuff? Touchdown upside? Where you got Josh Allen there stealing goal line carries?
Yeah, Allen is just going to eat away at that stuff.
That's what I thought. All right, let's get into this wide receiver room. So they lose Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. We talked about that. A lot of vacated targets. They bring in a rookie in Keon Coleman, who they traded back into the second to pick up. Keon Coleman is getting so much hype out of this training camp. It's a lot. Everyone's saying he's looking like the alpha. He's looking like the wide receiver one. His college tape, I love and hate all at the same time. It's just so hard to tell Keon Coleman because he was so good at points and times and looked so dominant. And I liked him beginning of the season. I was actually talking to Grant about it, saying, Keon Coleman looks fantastic. And then all of a sudden he just vanishes. It's just I know college and the NFL is different and just, the usage will be different, but him just vanishing in college makes me a little bit nervous for getting him and then playing him week in and week out and trusting him to be the wide receiver one. Roop, you watch a lot of college. How do you feel about Keon Coleman?
To me, every year he just got better and better. But I agree with you. He had some slow games where he just disappeared. He's a big guy. I mean, he could really be effective. He's 6'4", 220, I think. And, man, he could be a really good wide receiver, especially with Josh Allen as quarterback. We'll have to see, though. I mean, every rookie's, a toss-up.
Yeah, you can get him in a super flex. He's been going mid-second, which is, mid-second to early second. But if he falls to the mid-second, I would be swooping him up there because he's going around names like Adonai Mitchell. He's going around Jalen Polk. He's going around those guys. And I would take Keon Coleman and take the shot on him being the wide receiver one in Buffalo over those guys. Wade, any thoughts on Keon?
Yeah, I will admit I didn't watch a lot of his college tape or anything, but just with the situation there, I think if you're able to get him, like you were just saying, super flex, early to mid second, I think you pull the trigger on that just based on the upside and the potential for him to just be the wide receiver one there.
So Curtis Samuel comes over from Washington, and who was an absolute target hog there, stealing all of them from my beloved Jahan Dotson because he was irrelevant last year. Any interest in Curtis Samuel in this offense this year?
Yeah, he's definitely somebody I would buy on. I think people are kind of underestimating him just because he was never the alpha guy in Washington or anything. But I think that he's shown he can just soak up targets, and that might just be what they need in Buffalo. That offense might change, and yeah, I would definitely buy him if the price was right.
Roop, any interest in Samuel?
Yeah, I agree with Wade there. He's undervalued, I believe. He's going to a better offense, and I think he's going to do a lot better this year.
Now we got to talk about Khalil Shakir just for Grant because he absolutely loves Khalil Shakir. And he's going to he's in a good situation now. Keon Coleman is a rookie, so sometimes it takes him a little bit to develop. Curtis Samuel's new to the offense. Khalil Shakir is their wide receiver that's been in this offense for a couple of years, and he kind of looked better towards the end of the year. It still wasn't great. Week 11, he finished as a wide receiver 9, and then his next best finish was week 18 as wide receiver 18. But, he's just not a target earner. He's more of a deep ball, quick guy to spread the field. Any interest in Shakir?
I think, I'm a fan of his as well. Everybody's just been kind of waiting for that year where he pops off. I think he's just going to easily slide in and take Gabe Davis's role in this offense. I mean, I think that's what you're going to pretty much want to expect. And if he exceeds that, you're obviously ecstatic about it. But I don't think you should be banking on the world for him to come in and be the new Stephon Diggs in that offense.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you. Because I've thought of Khalil Shakir as like Gabe Davis 2.0. That's what he is. He's just going to be the field stretcher, and he might have games like Gabe Davis where he blows up for 30 points, 2 touchdowns, 100-some yards, and just absolutely nukes, and then just goose eggs the week after. So It's just hard to tell. In a best ball format, I would absolutely be targeting Khalil Shakir because he could have those weeks that he wins you the week, but just taking the shot on trying to think of when he blows up, it's just so hard for me. And I'm sorry, Grant, if you're listening, but I don't love him. All right, let's go on. Anyone else we need to touch on in this wide receiver room? MBS? You want MBS? KJ Hamler? Either one?
No.
No? Okay. Let's go to my love, tight end Dalton Kincaid. I love him. I think he has the ceiling of tight end 1 this year. Everyone's, I said it, this whole Sam Laporta thing, and everyone is still hating on me for it. But trading Sam Laporta for Dalton Kincaid plus, I'm still doing it if I could, because I think he has the ceiling of tight end one. The vacated targets. He's returning to the offense as well as Shakir. So he knows the offense. It seemed like Josh Allen was relying on him towards the end of the year more. I mean, Dawson Knox, the coaching staff loves Dawson Knox, and I don't know why, and it pisses me off. He's just there to kind of take snaps away from Kincaid. But is there anything that holds you back because of Dawson Knox?
No, Kincaid? Not at all. I think Kincaid's going to be essentially your wide receiver one in this offense. I think you're going to see a lot of two tight ends on the field, and Kincaid's going to be the guy you really want to get if you can buy any stonks in this offense.
I love to hear it. I love it because I'm relying on Kincaid in a lot of leagues.
I would target Kincaid for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off the board as like tight end 5. He's coming behind Laporta, Mark Andrews and all them, but I think he really does have the ceiling of tight end 1.
He's the perfect example, like we were talking about, when we were doing our startup mocks and stuff, of somebody you want. If you don't want to, spend 2 freaking 10 or whatever on Sam Laporta, you can wait 3 rounds later and get Kincaid, who he might not be tight end 1, but is the point differential going to be worth you spending 3 rounds more on him?
I just love to hear it, boys. I love it. It makes my heart happy because I love Kincaid. All right. Anyone else we need to touch on before we move on?
No.
All right. Let's go to the New York Jets. At quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, Jordan Travis. Running back, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Israel Abanikanda. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson. Tight end, Tyler Conklin. There are other names. I just felt like those are really the only relevant ones. Starting at the top, Aaron Rodgers returning from the Achilles injury. Man, I've been watching the training camp stuff. He still looks so good. I don't think he's going to have the mobility like he used to in the pocket and everything, but he has an abysmal offensive line still. They did not do that much to correct it. So buying into this offense, say you're buying Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, or Malachi Corley, who's been getting a lot of buzz as well, you are relying on the health of Aaron Rodgers. And does it make you nervous at all with just this team in general?
I think I'm more nervous, how that, with him being 40 this year, how that's Achilles heals up and actually holds up. But I think it was such a freak thing last year. I mean, you got the the MetLife turf out there that everybody hates, and it always gets somebody every single year. But no, if he holds up, I know he's 40. I think you're trying to look for at least a top 10 QB finish from him, and I don't see any reason why he couldn't do that.
Rupert, any concerns with you in this offense with Aaron Rodgers' health?
Yeah, if I were drafting him, it'd be a win now situation with Aaron Rodgers, obviously with age, but also his health is, we'll see. Achilles injury is tough to come back from anyway.
Yeah, especially at 40.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Rupert, you're a contender without a quarterback. What would you give? What would you give?
I would probably overpay. That's the situation I'm in.
Truly though, I think I'd be willing to give up at least a second for him.
A late second, yeah.
Maybe at most 2 seconds. You're probably only buying him for a year, but with the upside of him, I don't see a world where as long as he stays healthy, that he finishes below 15.
I had him in a super flex, and he was my 3rd QB, and I traded him for Gardner Minshew in a 2nd.
Oh yeah, that's. I would give that up to get Aaron Rodgers.
If I traded Rodgers away, throwing that out there,
right?
But yes, if Minshew does start, I just felt like Rodgers. I don't know much longer he's got, and I get a 2nd out of it, and he's not needing to start for my team, so it was worth it. If you got him as extra, and somebody offers you that, I don't see that being a bad deal.
Yeah. Tyrod Taylor, he'd be actually a pretty decent handcuff. They saw the struggles they had last year with not having a backup quarterback, essentially. Sorry, Zach Wilson. But they didn't have the backup quarterback, so they go out and get Tyrod, and then they drafted Jordan Travis late. I think he was a 5th-round pickup out of FSU. FSU is undefeated with Jordan Travis, and they essentially didn't make the national championship because he broke his leg. So is there any interest in Jordan Travis? Because, I mean, you can get him in a super flex, either undrafted or just super late 4th round.
Maybe you can get him undrafted, and depending on what your like taxi squad settings are, if he's somebody you could sit for several years on your taxi and let him rest there, it might not be a bad spot depending on how many picks you had or who you have rookie wise.
Yeah. Rupe, how do you feel about Jordan Travis?
Yeah, I would probably wait for him to be undrafted, like Wade was saying, and sit him in your taxi just to see what the hype is on him through the season, and also with health of the other quarterbacks. I don't think he's going to start, obviously, but I agree. Watch his development. You never know.
All right. I got him in a lot of leagues undrafted, so I was just wondering. I was checking you guys' level. This isn't only to help our listeners. It's really to help me, too.
Yeah.
Just make me feel better about myself and my teams.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, you're definitely not one to invest in him, but if you can get him for free and you have the spot on your taxi and you're high on the guy, there's no reason not to try to stash him.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of his tape just because I knew he was coming out injured and knew that he'd be a late toss. So I don't know that much about him. I just know that FSU really liked him, and they didn't make the tournament just because he got a broken leg. So, all right, on to the running backs here. My running back 1 overall in Dynasty football, Breece Hall. They bring in 2 rookie running backs, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, and there's a lot of hype on Israel Abanikanda. I don't know if much is needed to say about Breece Hall. I think he's going to get all the work, and as long as he's healthy, it's going to be the Breece Hall show. Receives, rushes. He looked great last year, even with how terrible the offense looked. So I don't see any reason. Where do you guys have Breece Hall ranked?
1A, 1B. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always going to be. I shouldn't say 1A, 1B because it's always going to be CMC until otherwise. But if you're going for youth, it's 1A, 1B between him and Bijan, in my opinion. I mean, like you just said, even with that offense being abysmal last year, he still finished as RB2. I mean, and you're talking about they just knew they couldn't throw the ball, so they stacked 8 guys in the box every single play, and it didn't matter.
And he was returning from his ACL tear, too.
Correct, yes.
So the fact that he's doing that on an injury return year and the offense doing jack squat, I mean, I think Breece Hall is just going to be an absolute monster this year.
And, you talk about guys who, were getting targets out of the backfield. I mean, he had 95 targets, 76 receptions, 591 yards, and 4 TDs. That's a lot, but I'm sure it'll downtick a little bit. But Rodgers still loves targeting his running backs out of the backfield. Yeah. So, and I don't see it like dropping off dramatically where you got to worry about it. And then with his knee being healed even more, he's going to be more, I can't think of the word. He'll be better as a rusher again. So I don't see anybody being worried about him.
You got him or Bijan ranked higher, Roop?
I have Breece Hall ranked higher for me.
I love it. Number 1.
Yeah, he's my number 1 if that's how you want to draft, but he's also going up there with some really good wide receivers too. So
I don't know if you've tuned in too much, but this is obviously a 0 RB drafting podcast.
Got to rename it.
That's what we should have named 0 RB Dynasty Football, because none of us took a running back in I think the first 4 rounds of our Superflex mock draft.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I love him, but I wouldn't have taken him that high in a startup just because that's the way I draft. But in in a rookie draft, when you're getting them that high, it was totally worth it. I actually the year I had the 101 was with Breece Hall, and I traded it away to get Jonathan Taylor, and it kind of hurts now. I mean, even though that team is doing good, and I love Jonathan Taylor, but it hurts a little bit. So
that trade wasn't straight up, was it?
No.
I didn't think so.
No,
I think he'll be fine there. Taylor's still gonna be good.
Oh yeah, but it's just I'm just looking at my number 1 ranked overall, and I'm like, yeah. All right. Anyone else we need to talk about in this running back room?
I don't think so. I mean, if you're looking for handcuffs, maybe, but other than that, I think it's
Braylon Allen has been the buzz out of training camp for that backup role. So I think if you're looking for a handcuff, Braylon Allen might be it. He can do receiving. He can do the running. He's a big boy.
He is 6'1", 235. He's a big dude.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So I think out of anything, that'd be the handcuff to have behind Brees. Roop, do you like Braylon?
I do. He's a good receiving back. He caught a lot out of the backfield at Wisconsin and did really well with it. So
I also just love those Wisconsin running backs. So
they do have a lot of good running backs coming out of there.
yeah. All right, on to the wide receiver core. I think the only two names we really need to talk about is Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley. Am I saying this correctly? Wade's.
Yeah, I don't see anyone else you really want to touch with the 10-foot pole, but
All right. No Alan Lazard truthers here? No one believer?
No.
No? Okay. Malachi Corley, I don't know if you guys have been watching any of the training camp buzz. I've been falling for any bit of football I can get, and man, he's had some sweet catches. I wasn't super high on him coming, into and out of drafts, but he's going mid-third, early third sometimes. But it's someone maybe I think I want to kind of buy into here. Anyone have any opinions on Corley?
I don't know a lot about him. I just know that he went like the first or second pick of the third round or something along those lines. I mean, so
First pick of the third.
There you go. So they clearly do like him there, and I mean, there's not, besides Garrett Wilson, who we all know is going to be wide receiver 1 there. There's not a lot of competition. So if he's got any sort of juice, I mean, he's going to win out that second wide receiver role.
Any opinions on Corley, Roop?
Yeah, he was really good in college about creating yards after catch. He's a smaller guy. He can kind of weave in and out of defenses when he does catch the ball. I like him. Like you're saying, there's not much competition. Garrett Wilson's number 1. I would target him, late.
Yeah, he was the yards after catch king, a lot of people were saying. And I mean, he is smaller as in shorter. He's 5'11", 215. So I mean, we've seen a lot smaller guys do a lot more. So, definitely an interesting, he's already being kind of listed up there as the wide receiver 2. And I mean, if we know anything about Aaron Rodgers, he's going to sling the ball. They're going to throw the ball. And so, I mean, having that second option there, I think it's a solid pick, and especially since you can get him so late in rookie drafts and probably even later in startups. So just someone to keep your eye on. We didn't talk about Garrett Wilson yet, and that is, do you guys have any fears on Garrett Wilson? He's this super hyped up guy, and everyone, last year he was coming off the board, wide receiver probably, I think 4 or 5. He was expected to take that step up. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and now he's kind of fallen a little bit to more the wide receiver 9. I mean, he finished as wide receiver 21 his rookie year, last year 26, and that's without essentially a quarterback to throw the ball to him. But he still finished with 1,000 yards in both seasons, 1103 and 1042. So Garrett Wilson is someone that I'm higher on than kind of everyone else is. You guys high, low, or where do you guys stand with Garrett Wilson?
I think I'm the right. What do you say, wide receiver 9? That's probably about right for me. Him and Drake London are kind of the same boat where they've both shown that they can do it. I think Garrett Wilson has shown he can do it a little bit more than Drake London, in my opinion. But with the two QBs coming into both those spots, it should boost them tremendously. I mean, if you can put up 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson and Mike Wyatt or whoever else they had in there, I think it shows anything you need there. And only coming off 3 touchdowns last year, so that number should skyrocket.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what website you're looking at, but Sleeper, it looks like he's 7 around A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill are both behind him, and Puka being in front. So kind of depends on where you're looking at, but he's in that 7 to 9 range.
Yeah, I'd probably still go A.J. Brown of the ones you listed there over him, but I understand why he's in that spot.
Yeah. Rupert, what about you?
Yeah, I understand why he's that high too. I think this year we're really going to see him get more receptions and target share. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers being there, we'll see. I like Garrett Wilson a lot, though. I have him around 10 is where I have him, but
I think I've got him like wide receiver 7 in my rankings. I got him above Puka just because I think he's a better player than Puka. But I'm also slow to come up on those guys that came out late in the draft. So I'm not super concerned. I think with better targets from Aaron Rodgers, as long as Rodgers stays healthy, that's the thing we're just banking on is Rodgers staying healthy. Anyone else in this wide receiver room? Wade's love for Lazard. I'm going to name the podcast this.
Yeah, no.
How about the tight end room? Tyler Conklin.
That's about it, in my opinion.
Do you have any interest in Tyler Conklin?
Not really. I mean, maybe if you're really, really desperate for a tight end in a tight end premium league. But, I mean, all the years Rodgers has played, he's never really had a tight end who finished that great. So, for me, it's just kind of if you really need one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He got a little bit of hype last year after he had one game. He finished as tight end 5, 18.5 points, and he was just fed by Wilson, and I mean fed. Other than that, though, it'd be the only tight end option on this team, obviously, I would put. But it's just, I mean, he's already 29 years old. I don't foresee a breakout season coming for Tyler Conklin.
And maybe I'm just undervaluing the lack of receiving weapons, and maybe he will get more. But, I mean, Rodgers has played with Lazard before. Even if we don't really love Lazard, he's still going to try to target him just based off of the trust they have. And then you got that rookie coming in, Corley, and then Garrett Wilson, then Hall out of the backfield.
I was going to say Brees Hall. So,
I don't see there being a real path for –
at best, he's the fourth or fifth option. At best.
Yeah.
So, all right, on to our final team. And that is Mr. Rupert Warrenham, the Miami Dolphins. We got at quarterback the recently paid Tua Tagovailoa, Mike White backing him up. Running back position, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright, and Jeff Wilson. Wide receivers, we got Tyreek Hill, who just also got he didn't get extended. It was a contract restructure, essentially to make him want to stay for 3 extra years. Jalen Waddle, Eric Ezukanma? I don't know how that one. Malik Washington, Braxton Berrios, and you guys are going to love this one. I don't know if you saw it in the doc, but Willie Snead. Willie Snead is on the Dolphins.
Didn't know that. Has that dude been relevant? I didn't even know he was still playing, to be honest with you.
I only put him on there because I was just shocked that he was there.
Saw the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he played with San Fran the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I forget that was a thing.
Tight ends Durham Smythe and John A. Smith. Willie Snead, man. That's a blast from the past.
That is.
All right, talking about the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa, recently paid, gets extended. I mean, that gets me more excited in Dynasty to have him. But I feel like Tua is just, he's good. He finished last year as the quarterback 9, year before that 15. And I think that's where Tua is going to live, between, that back end wide receiver 1 to top end wide receiver. Back end quarterback 1 to top end quarterback 2. And I think that's just kind of where he's going to be. I feel like he is similar to Brock Purdy in terms of, as long as he has his weapons, he's going to be fine. And, having both Waddle and Tyreek Hill there for the, next couple of years, he's going to be just fine, because they're going to just absolutely nuke in the receiving game. I mean, with Mike McDaniel scheming up that offense too. He is a safe option that I think is going to get you points week in, week out, finishing right about that mid-range there.
Yeah, unless he gets some more concussions.
He made it last year with that one. We're good.
Hey, all right, 1 year.
He learned jiu-jitsu. He learned jiu-jitsu so he can avoid the concussions, man.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But no, him being locked up there with Mike McDaniel is probably the best thing you could hope for if you were a dynasty owner of him. You want him in that offense set just because it boosts his value just that much more. With those weapons there, that system is the best fit for him.
Where are you at with Tua, Mitch?
Yeah, I like him as a high-end QB too. Yeah, that's pretty much where I have him. Pretty much where he finished.
Do you feel good going into week in, week out as Tua being your quarterback 1?
Not particularly. He had some slow moments last year. He started off.
This is coming from the man that
hot.
Easton Stick was his quarterback 1 for the championship.
I know it was a bad strategy, and I still won somehow. So.
Hey, you won that jersey, man. But
Yeah, it's not a longevity strategy, that's for sure.
For me, I think, it's not like it wouldn't be my first option as having my QB1, but if, the board fell right and that's who you ended up with, I wouldn't also be like overly upset, but I also try to target a pretty damn good QB2 if it came down to that.
all right. Mike White, handcuff. Anyone like it?
Waiver wire.
Waiver, yeah. Belongs there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On to the receiving core, which I feel like it's pretty easy. You got Tyreek Hill, the number one NFL player voted by players. Rupert's rocking the Tyreek jersey. How much do you love Tyreek being on your team?
Oh, I love it. Honestly, like, he can put up points. Like, yeah, he had some bust games last year, but in all honesty, he was scoring me anywhere from 25 to 30 points pretty much every time he played. It was great.
Week 1, the man came out the gate and put up 48 points. It's just
I know, it was insane.
And he only played 66% of the snaps. That's just wild.
It's insane. Yeah.
Chargers defense was pretty poop.
That's fair, but I feel like if you are a contender, give up whatever you can to get Tyreek, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Especially since he just got contract restructure. So essentially, he had more years than what a lot of people thought, because he said he was going to finish out his contract. And there's a couple hidden years in that contract. Essentially, they restructured it for him to say, yeah, I'll play out the rest of this. They gave the guaranteed money on those years. So that's essentially what he did. So he'll be there, I think it's 2 years. So I think it continues out to like 2025. So I'm not 100% sure. Someone should fact check me on that, but I believe that's what I read somewhere.
That sounds about right. I'm not really worried about it. I think the biggest thing with him, and maybe it's just me and these guys who, and not that he's a good route runner, he is, but with his size and he relies on so much speed. I'm real curious if we're going to see, a fall off at some point. I mean, he's 30 this year. I don't know if he'll be turning 31 in the middle of the season or not, but at some point that speed's going to kind of start to fall off. But like you said, if you're a contender and if you're trying to win now, it's perfect buy or just draft.
Yeah, it's just he could win you a championship.
Absolutely.
As we see, Rupert wearing the jersey. It still hurts. It hurts. I'm just watching your team have no quarterbacks and absolutely nuke. On to the next wide receiver, Jalen Waddle. I feel like everyone's down on Waddle. Last year he finished. He finished as the wide receiver 34. He was supposed to be, awesome, but he only played 14 games, and even the games that he was playing in, he was in and out because he was injured. He was dealing with lots of injury. A year ago this time, we would have seen him coming off the board typically kind of around as where Tyreek's going now, wide receiver 9, 10-ish, and now he's down to wide receiver 14, so dropped a few spots there. ADP's 37, so you're getting him third round, late third, mid to late third to early fourth. I mean, taking a shot on Jalen Waddle there, I think I would do it, because I still believe in Jalen Waddle, especially if he can get healthy this year. I like Jalen Waddle a lot. Where are you guys at with Waddle?
I think that's, perfectly fine for where you're trying to draft him at in a startup third round, whatever. I think the past season was kind of a fluke, in my opinion. I mean, something just seemed off there all year long with him. I know he had nagging injuries and what have you, but you're just kind of hoping that he can get back to what he was, 2 years ago now. And then obviously he got extended, Hill's extended, but eventually I think your still hope is that he just kind of slides into that Tyreek role in this offense once Tyreek's aged out or what have you. But that just might be several years down the road for you. And he might be a good buy now candidate for somebody who's like, man, this last year really turned me off on him or what have you. And you might be able to get him for cheaper than what you would usually.
Roop, what would you give to get Waddle on your team? What would you trade away?
I think I would give a late second. Yeah. I like Waddle.
You ain't getting him for that.
I don't know. How cheap are people trying to sell him for? I don't know.
My guess is at least you're giving up a first.
Late
plus.
first.
Late first plus is my
Plus.
Wade, what would you give?
A late first is probably what I'd give for him, just because of the lack of him. I mean, obviously, in 2022 he did finish as wide receiver 8 in PPR, but just with Hill there soaking up all those targets, it kind of cuts his ceiling down a little bit. But no, I'd have no problem throwing a late first in there for sure.
What if you have him? What would you take?
I'd want more than that, and I totally
Right.
understand that. Like, I wouldn't trade him for a late first. I don't think, depending on my situation, I guess. But even then, he's still only 25, so I'm not trading him for a late first, even if I'm rebuilding. He's kind of just stuck in the middle, where it's like somebody'd have to overpay for you to really want to sell him, and somebody who's buying him is probably not going to want to overpay that much, depending on the class coming out or what have you.
And that's what I was trying to get at with this question, is just because I think there's a market discrepancy here. It's just like people don't want to pay that much because of his finish last year, and there's a lot of recency bias on it. But the people that have him, it's just like you don't want to just take that for Waddle just because of the upside. So there's just like a big market discrepancy. I feel like he's just one of those guys that, he's not hard to buy because he's so high. He's hard to buy because there's just this big discrepancy on, people that have him are really still valuing him super high, and people that want him are just like, well, I don't want to pay that much for what he's done. So just a little bit of discrepancy on Waddle. So I think the only way to get him is kind of like a startup, and I'm taking the shot on him there late third, early fourth. My kind of sleeper has been Malik Washington. He's another undersized yards after catch guy out of Virginia. They took him way late not way late, but fourth round of the draft. I like him just because watching his tape, he'd get the ball in his hands and he was gone. Another quick speedster yard after catch guy that I really like, and someone you can either get fourth round or even sometimes I've seen him go undrafted. So, wait, why you always got animals in the shop, man?
Sorry, my cat's annoying.
Do you guys have any opinion on Washington?
Not particularly, I guess. Fourth round coming in. It's just until I see another receiver really have a role carved out in that offense, it's kind of hard for me to buy into anybody.
Rupert, what about you?
Oh, another extremely athletic guy is what I think. They have so many of those on this offense. It's
speed.
What sets them apart is their speed, and what's going to set who knows? I don't know what's going to set him apart from everybody else they already have on their team.
That's true. I just liked him because of that. But yeah, I mean, he goes through the perfect offense for his skill set. It's just I feel like we're going to talk about the running backs here in a second. But I think he's going to be the fourth option at the minimum. You got Tyreek and Jalen obviously eating up most of the targets, and then you got Devon Achane out of the backfield here that can do some receiving work. So, fourth option on an offense that is got much better options. He might be just a stash away and see if something happens, injury handcuff or something. But let's get into the running backs here. Devon Achane, who absolutely nuked last year, and I mean nuked. His yards per carry is probably the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. 7.77. He was like one of the highest yards per carry of any rookie, and of any running back, I believe even. So what are your guys'? I'm nervous of Devon Achane. A lot of people have him, like number 5, number 6. I got him more like 8 or 9 because he's so small, and there's no way you can continue that production. No way. You cannot do that production in the NFL over and over, year in, year out. Where are you guys at with Achane?
I'm probably lower than some other people. His ceiling is just insane just off the nuke potential, like you're saying. The speed is just otherworldly. You still got Mostert there, who I think is just going to take some carries from him. But, it doesn't matter if he takes carries from him. Every time he touches the ball, he goes 80 yards to the house. But I don't know. I think I just need to see another year of it. I'm not somebody who's going to want to spend the high end on him. Like we talked about, I'm also, going into the no RB thing, so I'm not wanting to spend probably what he's going to take to get him. And if I was going to try to buy him for probably the price somebody's trying to sell him for just based off the hype, I'd rather get Brees Hall or like Bijan and just spend a little bit more just to get those guys.
Yeah. Where are you at with A-Chain, Roop?
Yeah, I like him, but I agree with you guys. He can take it to the house, but he's also got Raheem Mostert right there. You know, he did well last year as well. So they're
Well,
both.
and with like Raheem Mostert, they also drafted a rookie in Jalen Wright, who I really, really like. And I mean, he's going to be there for the foreseeable future because I think he's going to step right into that Mostert role as soon as Mostert's done. You know, Mostert's probably hopefully calls it quits after this year. My goodness, that man's what, 31, 32 already? It's insane.
32.
32, yeah. I mean, a running back that's 32 with Mostert's production is just insane. But so hopefully he's done, and I think Jalen Wright steps right into that role. But I mean, HN is also one of those backs you don't need to get 20 touches a game. He can do it on, 14 or 15 because of how explosive he is. But I just don't know how that production continues. You know, teams are going to adjust. He was a rookie last year. Nobody had really seen that out of him. So I think teams will adjust and, he won't be as productive. But the ceiling, like you said, Wade, it is just astronomical.
And yeah, you can adjust all you want, but the problem with the Mike McDaniel offense is if you can't cover all that speed, man. Somebody's going to be open somewhere, or there's going to be a hole, and somebody's going to hit it, and it's quite insane. We've never really seen anything like it, to my recollection.
Now, the problem I have with this Miami offense is I want pieces of it. It's just all the pieces are expensive. I feel like the best piece to get in this offense is Jalen Wright to me, because you can get him late second in a rookie draft. So getting them late to mid second and just to get a piece of this offense, I feel like that's your cheapest buy-in here.
And that'd probably be a good one to get, like you said, with Mostert possibly, aging out and everything else. But if you're looking for like trade target wise, it's gonna be probably gonna be Waddle coming off of that, wide receiver 34 finish or whatever last year. But even then, like we said, it's just such a disparity on what people want to sell him for, what you want to buy him for. If you can find somebody really low on him, it's probably the perfect time to buy him. But yeah, the offense there is it's real expensive to buy into.
Rupert, you have Tyreek on your team. What would it take to get him off of your team?
Oh man, it would take a lot. Something somebody's probably not going to want to pay.
I know. I feel like this whole Miami offense is just like there's such a marked discrepancy between all the players. It's like you don't want to pay that much, but in order to get them on your team, you're going to have to just way overpay, which, I mean, an overpay today might be an underpay tomorrow. But It's just, man, it's so hard to buy into this Miami offense.
I think for most people, unless you're, you've somehow destroyed your entire team and still have Tyreek, that he's just going to be somebody you're just like, he's going to retire on my team. Like, it doesn't matter what you offer me unless it's just something absolutely insane. The man's just going to die on my
He has come here to die.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how I mean, I have him, and that's how I am. I'm like, he'll die on my team, and I'm fine with it.
You ride that puppy like the Titanic to the bottom, man.
Yep.
Like,
Right.
You just keep riding her till the end. Do we need to talk about the tight ends? Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe? Any interest from either one of the tight ends?
If anybody, for me, it's probably going to be Jonnu there, but still it's just, Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to get him. But once again, like I've said, probably with a lot of these tight ends that aren't, big names or what have you, it's just going to be depending on your tight end depth. And if you need a waiver wire guy, depending on how the season goes, he might be somebody who can get you a red zone target or two.
Here's my thing with Jonnu. I had Jonnu for multiple years. My biggest issue with Jonnu is that he was just overused last year for some reason because Arthur Sith loved him. That's right, I said Arthur Sith. And
yes, you did.
He absolutely loved him for some unknown reason, and he got 70 targets, 50 receptions. He shouldn't. He's never had that in his whole entire career. That was his best year. Years prior to that, 30, 44, 65, 45, 38. I don't see Jonnu Smith becoming the tight end that we love and want to play. And there's been so much hype on him. People are like, Jonnu Smith's a sleeper tight end. Pick him up. I'm like, no, because he's not going to do anything.
We've been saying that for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And that just reinforces what I'm saying is like, just to talk about him, he might be worth, pick up on the waiver wire, keeping an eye on, maybe put him in your favorites or something just to see if he pops off one week. But it's not somebody you're going to be like, okay, I'm targeting this guy like uber late in a draft. It's just not going to happen.
All right. Okay, well, how do you guys think that the division ends rank-wise? I've got Miami winning.
Yep.
Buffalo finishing second, obviously. I got the Jets third, and obviously the Patriots fourth. How do you guys got it?
I'm going to go Miami. Any surprise here? I'm going to go New York, then Buffalo, then New England. And I think Buffalo and New York are going to be close. And I think the top three of the teams there I think they all make the playoffs. But I think it's going to be a tight fight all the way down to the end.
Rupe, how do you got it?
I got it Miami 1, Buffalo 2nd, New York 3rd, and then
my guy.
the Patriots. Yeah.
All the Miami fans listening to this are just loving it, eating up everything.
Well, I mean,
it's hard to beat that offense, man. It's just hard.
I agree.
They're gonna be unstoppable. You know, I think that's gonna be a high-powered offense. All right. Anyone else we need to touch on in this division here, or we done?
I think we're good.
All right. Nobody, no sleepers.
I got nothing else.
All righty. Well, follow us at Beer 30 Football on Twitter, or me, FF Captain 22. Rupert, you gotta sign off for us.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this again.
Oh, absolutely, man. It was a great time. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this. Have a good one, y'all. Wade, hit us with
Take her easy, everybody. Have a good rest of your weekend or whenever this actually gets up.
Gosh darn it! And if she's easy, take her twice.
You got that from me.
Of course they did.